And I don't think we can trust if we aren't willing to surrender. I think the actual act of trusting requires an element of surrender. Letting go of what we think it should be and believing and knowing that what is happening is perfect for us right here and right now. So the power of surrender. Surrender is one of those things that is spoken about in almost every single faith tradition. In the sacred text of every faith tradition, you can find something to do with surrender. You know, if we start with our Abrahamic religions, right in the very first few lines of it, not too far into the book, Abraham is asked to surrender his beloved son to spirit. A little later on, Noah is asked to give up every single thing and build an ark and gather a bunch of animals. And then when we get into the New Testament, Jesus of Nazareth is asked to surrender everything to the cross. If we look at some of the other faith traditions, in one of the oldest spiritual texts around, the Bhagavad Gita from Hinduism, Krishna asks Arjuna to give up everything. He says, "Surrender exclusively unto me your entire being." Surrender exclusively unto me your entire being. And the word Islam, the name of one of the largest religions in the world, actually means surrender. We are asked to surrender in lots of different ways, all the time. And we, as human beings with a very powerful and strong and forceful ego, don't really like to do that much. You know, the definition of surrender here, this is from Merriam-Webster, says to give oneself up into the power of another. How many of you want to do that? Yeah, not really. Not really. I've strived a long time in my life not to give myself up to the power of anyone else. But I have come to realize how powerful it is to surrender my own way of doing things, my own way of thinking, my own way of planning things out and expecting them to be a certain way, and then suffering all the consequences of it when it isn't that way. For me, it's been a lifelong journey. I have to say, a lifelong journey that didn't really start until about 15 years ago. So up until then, until about the first 45, 46 years of my life is like, I'm not surrendering anything. I'm controlling. I'm making it happen. I'm out there doing. If it is to be, it's up to me kind of attitude. Anybody else relate to that one? Yeah. When I first heard that phrase, I thought, this is it. If it is to be, it's up to me. All those little two-letter words strung together, oh my goodness, what a power there was in that. And then I began to realize how much better my life was when I let go of a lot of that stuff, when I let go of control of it. One of my favorite books is a book called Spiritual Liberation by Michael Beckwith. In there he says, surrender is not about acquiescing to God or a deity outside of ourselves. It's about yielding to the Spirit, becoming conscious of itself in, through, and as us. Yielding to the Spirit as it's becoming conscious of itself in us. What a difference that made in my life when I began to realize that there is this power that is moving through me in everything that I do, that is showing up as me whenever I show up anywhere. The freedom that came with that idea of I don't have to try to control it. I just have to be open and allowing it to move through me. What a difference that has made in my spiritual practices and the work I do in the world, in my ideas of friendships and relationships and family and home and finances, health, all of those things. When I put the process of surrender to them, I am amazed at the outcome for each one of those things. In the last, 8 years now, I've had a spiritual practice that has really taught me the power of surrender in a profound way. So in 2016, when I start a new year, I always look for a new way to up my practices. You know, I want to refresh my spiritual practices. I want to get more engaged in that. So I always look for something. And so I had taken a workshop on something called Zentangles. And Zentangles is a meditative drawing process. And I thought, hey, I think I could probably do that. Maybe that'll be the thing to up my practice. And so I started doing these little drawings. And the people that developed it, they had way too many rules for me. I'm just saying. They had like a whole plethora of rules. They've now changed that to say it's not rules, but suggestions. I can kind of get behind suggestions a lot more than I can rules, which is very surprising because I always considered myself a rule follower. But anyway, when it came to doing things like this, it was, I wanted to do it the way I wanted to do it. So my Zentangle practice quickly, like within 3 months, shifted into drawing mandalas. And some of you have seen some of the mandalas that I draw. I have 4 coloring books out now. I have workshops on it and all that stuff. And so that fed me for many years as a spiritual practice, daily drawing of a mandala. If you're not sure what a mandala is, it's generally a circular representation of a spiritual idea. Oftentimes you see them in Hinduism and Buddhism, very elaborate. The Buddhist monks will sit down and spend a week making mandalas out of sand, only to carry them outside and let the wind blow them away. I couldn't do that. I'm just saying. I like my work too much for that. But so anyway, I was doing these mandalas, drawing them and everything, and it has really sustained me a lot. But a lot of that had to do with me relaxing into the moment and creating whatever came to me. I found in this practice that if I tried to control it, if I started the practice with a preconceived idea of what it was going to look like, my lines were crooked, they were shaky, it didn't have the form that I wanted, there wasn't the feel in it, and I wasn't satisfied with it when I was done. But if I sat down and emptied my mind and said, okay, Spirit, what do I need to know today? And then picked up my pen and let it come out on the paper, I was like tickled beyond belief with it. If you ever come to my house, you will see them all over the place. I love my mandalas. I love what I can do with them, and what the feeling that I get when I do this has just been amazing. And as I said, I have some coloring books, but when I first started to make that first coloring book, you know, if you ever write a book, you have to like have a bio. Tell a little bit about yourself as the author or the artist of it. And so I was writing my bio for my book. And I wrote down there that I'm an educator. I had no trouble claiming that. I'm an author. That was okay. I could do that. I'm a teacher. I'm a spiritual practitioner, all of this stuff. And then I realized, wait a second. I'm the artist of this. And the trauma that happened inside of me at the thought of claiming that I was an artist was unbelievable. It was like shocking to me how long it took me to actually write the word artist in my bio to put on the back of my coloring book. Because to me it was like this was coming through. It was not me, and to claim that I was an artist and being an artist was something that I never thought of myself. I always thought I was crafty, but not an artistic. And so to do that was a really unique experience for me to actually allow that to come through me. Because what it was coming through was spirit in this form of an artist. And I resisted that for so many years. In the last 6 months or so, my practice has morphed a little bit. And so I thought I would share with you 4 drawings that I did this week. These are actual ones that I did this week, just to show you how it's kind of changed and how I still have a little bit of a, hit that too fast. I still have a little bit of a trepidation about saying I'm an artist, but this is the one I did on Monday. And then this was Tuesday. This one came in on Friday. I saw a balcony here in town and had to draw it. This is the one I did yesterday morning as I was preparing for this talk. This is me stepping outside of my small, limited self and allowing that power within to move through. This is surrender. This, for me, is such a powerful representation of what can happen when we are in the flow. When we step out of our little ego, our little minds, our need to control things that are happening in our lives, and we let Spirit move through us. This is what happens. I have this one on my computer, and as I was finishing my prep work yesterday and earlier this morning, I'm just like, I look at it and I just smile. It makes me happy. It makes me happy to see this. I don't even feel like any pride or anything like that really. It just makes me happy. So for me, this idea of stepping outside of something that I thought I had to control. Before I decided to go into ministry, my idea of a career after my retirement from teaching was going to be a graphic artist. Because on a computer, I can make everything look exactly like I want it to. I didn't think I could when I started drawing. I didn't like my drawings because I couldn't make it look like I wanted it to. I could sit and I could nitpick this picture and find all of the little places where I didn't make the curve exactly like I wanted it to. But what would be the point in that when it makes me so frickin' happy? I think we have an opportunity in every single thing that we do in life to find a way to let Spirit come through us. I know for Justin, it's coming through musically. I listened to him talking about the hours and hours of practice till his fingers bleed. He keeps super glue around, I believe, right? Super glue. Can you imagine loving something so much that you're willing to super glue all the little cuts in your fingers that you're doing getting it? I mean, it's just amazing to see that happen. We are so blessed to be in a movement like this, where we learn these tools that allow Spirit to move through us and talk to us. In our meditations, like Karen did this morning, where we sit in the silence and we listen for that voice, gently knocking, maybe sometimes nudging, saying, do this, try this, go to this place. And when we surrender our ideas of what it should be and follow those urges, I think our life begins to really, really blossom. One of the early spiritual guides was a man named Lao Tzu. And Lao Tzu wrote this: surrender to life, allow it to lead you. Don't try to lead life. Don't try to manipulate and control life. Let life possess you. You simply surrender. You give total power to life and be with it. Don't try to manipulate. Don't try to control life. I find that when I do that, I am so stuck in the moment, I can't get past it. But when I get into that flow, when I trust what's happening, when I trust those intuition, those little nudges, those little voices that I hear, and allow that to lead through me, then magnificent things open up. I was just invited to do my first art exhibit this summer, so I'm excited about that. Yeah. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, one of his great books, if you ever have a chance and you want something that's a quick read, 365 Science of Mind. It's a daily reading. He usually starts with a Bible quote in there, but he and I think Raymond Charles Barker, I believe, wrote it together. And it's really great. So I love this book. I was looking for quotes on surrender, and there are 36 quotes in this book of 365 passages. 36 of them talk about surrender. And he says this one: a belief in the invisible is the very essence of faith. Prayer, or spiritual communion, demands a complete surrender to the invisible. It knows that because the creative power of the universe is at hand, all things are possible. Our spiritual practices are a lot about surrender, especially prayer. And it's kind of seems to be the antithesis of it, because our prayer is very structured. We have 5 stages, and we do certain things in each one of the stages. But what it does is it builds in us a feeling of letting go of trying to control things. By stating things in a positive way and affirmations of truth, we get to the undercurrent of it, the underbelly of it, and we can figure out what's actually happening here and begin to clear that stuff away that allows us to stop surrendering. Clear those things that make us want to control things. Get rid of those fears and those hidden beliefs. That's what our prayer does. It helps us mentally clear out that stuff and allow us to have that spiritual awakening through the power and the practice of prayer. If you haven't experienced it for yourself, I really encourage you to go right after service over to our prayer room and ask our practitioners to do a spiritual mind treatment for you for whatever. It could be something that's challenging for you right now, or it could be something that's happening really good and you want it to continue. Anybody have any of those things they want? Really, ask for prayer. It's a very powerful practice to do that. Our practice of meditation is all about quieting that ego voice and getting to that place of stillness where we can hear that gentle nudge, where we can hear that voice of spirit. One of our most powerful practices that really has a lot to do with surrender and has a huge benefit on top of it is our practice of service, our sacred service. I find that when I'm stuck on a situation, when I have things that I can't work through, I find a way to be in service, and my problems go away. They may come back again, and I have to revisit them, but at least for those moments that I am engaged in giving of myself to someone else, life is all good. There's not a thing, not a trouble in my mind that's going on. So it's just a way that we can begin to find ways to release some of that control. I think in our society, it's naturally built on controlling things and making things work. And a lot of that is built on the fears that come through and things that we have that we need to clear out, those beliefs that have been generational for us, that we will never get ahead, or that we can't have, or that something is always holding us back. Sometimes those are beliefs that we have internalized unconsciously, and we don't even know they're working in us until we start to really examine it. So one more quote here from Ernest in the 365 Science of Mind. It's a little longer here, but we should awake to the living presence of the eternal life within each one of us and enter into a realization of a new peace and joy. As we come to surrender all littleness, all fear and doubt, that great river of life flowing from the mind of spirit will renew our vigor, remake our strength, ennoble our being, heal our bodies, and bring peace to our hearts. As our thoughts are cleared of all that is unlike that which created us, they become receptacles for the outpouring of all that is good and wonderful and true. How many would like to experience more of that good and wonderful and true? As we begin to release our need to control those things that scare us, those things that we feel like are holding us back, those things that anger us, as we begin to release the control of those, we make space inside of ourselves for the outpouring of spirit. And then magnificent art flows from our lives, in whatever way it shows up for you. It is a wonderful practice to release, to surrender, to let go. Michael Beckwith says in his book, and a couple other books, I think, that all spiritual growth, 100% of spiritual growth, is about letting go. You are already all that is necessary. You are already the perfection and the magnificence and the good and the wonderful and true. You're already that. All we have to do is let go of our littleness, our fears, our perceived limitations, and allow a place for Spirit to show up. And that is the power of surrender. Let's take this into prayer. I invite our spiritual practitioners to stand and surround us. They hold us in consciousness throughout the week. If you ever have anything going on, please submit a prayer request. The practitioners, ministers here, hold you in consciousness throughout the week, knowing the truth for you. All right, I just invite you to take in a nice breath. And I close my eyes when I pray. If that works for you, I invite you to join me. And simply recognizing that one power, that one presence, that one creative intelligence that has brought forth everything into existence, that is the isness and the allness and the fullness of all life, that is love beyond love, that is creative and artistic and filled with expression in so many ways. That one power and presence is in me. It's moving through me, showing up as me, in all that I am and all that I could ever be. And as I know this is true for me, I know this is true for everyone. For each one of us is that perfect and unique emanation of that creative love intelligence, brought forth for Spirit to experience the world uniquely and perfectly as you. And because I know that there is only one, I know that this one is forever expressing itself as all life. I know that everything I see before me is a perfect example of the living Spirit. I feel it in the wind as it caresses my face. I see it in the sun rising over the mountain. I relish it in the kisses from my puppies and the relationships with everyone I have. I know that this one creative love intelligence is the perfection of the universe, and it is showing up through every single one of us. And I know that it has an easier way of doing that when we release, when we allow, when we surrender to that love intelligence. As we get our little self out of the way, as Emerson said, our bloated nothingness, we allow space for Spirit to show up. And oh, how magnificently it does. I am so grateful to know this. I'm so grateful to feel it. And I am so grateful to see it happening in this community right here and right now in the most amazing and perfect ways. And so I release this word into the law, into that creative mind that knows no limitation, that always says yes, that is always unfolding for the highest and greatest good of all life. I let it go, and I let it be. And together we say, and so it is.